Szakacs with his speech, Summer Jobs. Summer Jobs, Adam Szakacs.
How many of you have had a summer job? Now, keep your hand up if you've had a summer job that really sucked. I'm so glad I'm not the only one, because I've had a few. I've heard horror stories, though, from friends who've worked at restaurants and bars that involve cleaning up after people who have had a little bit too much. And while I count myself lucky to have never had a job like that, I can still confidently say that summer jobs can really suck. But I think there's a bright side. Today I'll tell you how summer jobs taught me 3 valuable life lessons. My first summer job was in high school. I loved computers and dreamed of one day being one of the lucky few selected to work at Best Buy. Unfortunately, my skills were never to their exacting standards, but I was able to get a job at a small, independently owned computer store. I would split my time building machines in the back and working the retail floor with customers in the front. Now, I ended up spending most of my time building machines because, as we know, most people shop at Best Buy. My first day arrived and I couldn't wait to show them what I could do. They had me build a machine for a customer's order. So I excitedly connected the motherboard, the processor, the memory, and the power supply inside the tower. When it was time for the big reveal, I couldn't wait to see the DOS prompt asking me to install Windows ME. I pressed the power button with anticipation, and instantly, smoke began pouring out of the machine. The store lost a few $100s that day, but I was somehow allowed to return the next day. It was not a very good start. A few weeks later, I was building a laptop for a customer. Now, back then, laptops were a little bit larger than they are now, and there was space to customize the components inside. So I had the laptop upside down on the workbench, and had just finished installing all the parts when I turned it over, and to my horror, the top cover of the laptop was absolutely covered in deep scratches. It turned out I'd been building the laptop on top of a piece of a broken screw, and had inadvertently carved an Etch-a-Sketch style logo all over the top of it. Rich, I'll explain what an Etch-a-Sketch is later. Now, my boss's great idea to fix this was to sand and spray paint the entire surface of this $2,000 machine. So I did that in the back of the store, not realizing that paint fumes and my asthmatic coworker might not get along. He started coughing and went home immediately. I'm concerned to say I never saw him again. That's actually true. This has been a long-winded way of telling you that maybe Best Buy was right for not hiring me. But more importantly, this job taught me that my actions impact others, and to be a little bit more cautious and thoughtful moving forward. My next memorable summer job was the summer after my first year of university. I joined a call center for the collections department of Nextel, which is now Sprint. Now, call center jobs are generally not much fun, but in this particular role, I'd be talking to people who are months delinquent on paying their cell phone bills. You might think that calling out to Nextel's customers and asking for payment would be the worst part of the job, but you would be wrong. After somebody didn't pay their bill for 60 days, the system would automatically direct any call that they tried to make on their phone directly to us at the call center. This change happened at midnight every night, and as you can imagine, I worked every late night weekend shift. Most of my calls were, of course, made up of people who chose to spend their cell phone budgets at bars and urgently needed to call their friends to coordinate. Hey Johnny, you gotta get here, man. We got drinks, girls every... Hello, this is Nextel Collections. Our records indicate. Confusion quickly turned into anger when they realized they'd only be able to call me until they made a payment. It always struck me that the people who seemed to depend on their phones the most were the ones who didn't pay. And that job taught me a very simple but important adult lesson. That is to always be diligent in paying my bills on time, especially for things that I value. Now, my worst job of all time came the following summer. After weeks of searching for something that I might actually enjoy, I gave up and in an act of desperation called the Temp Placement Agency. They told me that I had 2 options, office jobs or labor jobs. When I asked for an office job, of course they told me they only had labor jobs left. Now, as you can probably tell, I don't belong in any situation where physical labor is required, much less for 10 hours a day. But they convinced me that most any human would do and told me they found a placement. So I borrowed steel-toed boots from a friend and went in for my first 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. The job was at a powder coating shop. Now, powder coat is essentially paint in the form of dust, and it has a very high heat tolerance, so it's often used to color and seal metal engine parts. And my role would be standing beneath the conveyor line, lifting heavy alternators and parts from semi-trucks out of a crate onto a moving hook above me, over and over and over for 10 hours each day. Now, the powder coat was also constantly being sprayed in the back of the shop, so the dust was omnipresent in the air. Any night that I went home and blew my nose, I would see black. Not much fun. I expected the shop to be full of summer students just like me, reminiscing about last weekend's party or how great it would be to get out of there in a few months. What I found, though, was that my coworkers couldn't have been more different than myself. These were men and women, mostly in their 40s and 50s, who had been doing the same lifting and hanging of parts month after month, year after year. I soon learned that they would also spend a lot of their weekends together and off hours, and on one Thursday overheard one ask the others if they should get a half ball or a full 8 ball for that weekend. I thought I knew what that meant, but I Googled it when I got home just to be sure. I hated this job after a few days, but I promised myself that I would stay until I made $1,000 so that I could see the job through as a learning opportunity, and that took several weeks. The job was just terrible, but it was only a short-term novelty for me. For the others, it was their livelihood for years before and after. This job taught me a valuable lesson as well. Well, actually a few, including to not get involved with cocaine. This job taught me the value of education and galvanized the importance of finishing university. It also taught me to be a lifelong learner so that I could make a living on the strength of my brain, since I certainly wouldn't be able to with my arms. Over these years, I've had some summer jobs that really sucked, but they taught me some valuable lessons along the way. Considering how my actions impact others, to always pay my bills on time, and to value education are just 3 examples. So when you think back on your summer jobs, what did you learn?